Robert McCall is often celebrated as a hero, a man who protects women and brings criminals to justice. Audiences see him as the ultimate vigilante, standing against the Russian mob and defending the helpless. But that narrative is false. That is not the truth. When we look closer, what we see is something far more embarrassing. McCall is not a hero. He is not a warrior. Robert McCall is the biggest simp in cinematic history. Today, we will expose him. We will examine his actions, his motivations, and the disastrous choices he makes, all in the name of a young woman who does not return his affection. We are first introduced to McCall as a quiet, lonely man. He works in a hardware store. He reads books in a diner late at night. On the surface, he seems disciplined, almost monk-like. But this facade hides the truth. Everything he does, every routine, every gesture, was preparation for the greatest act of simping ever recorded. In that diner, McCall meets a young woman, a woman who talks to him, shares her dreams, her struggles. She is decades younger than him, living a life completely separate from his own. But to McCall, this moment was not just small talk. This was destiny. This was validation. This was his chance to prove himself as a man, not through love, not through conversation, but through violence. It must also be noted that McCall ignored everyone else in his life. He did not dedicate himself to his community. He did not rise to defend the oppressed around him. He reserved his energy, his rage, his skills for this one woman, and notably, she is white. We are meant to believe McCall fought the Russian mob because of some moral code, but the reality is far simpler. He was chasing a snow bunny. He ignored a woman who looked like him, women of his age, women of his background. For them, he had nothing, but for her, he was willing to kill. McCall does not begin his campaign with violence. He begins with conversation, with books, with life advice. This is the first phase of his downfall, the pathetic sugar daddy stage. He reads alongside her, recommends literature, pretends to care about her dreams of becoming a singer. This is not mentorship. This is not compassion. This is bribery. A man with no money, no youth, no appeal, attempting to buy affection with borrowed wisdom and second-hand philosophy. We see him smile at her, nod along, listen intently. To the casual observer, this may look like kindness, but in reality, this was calculation. He was investing his time, his energy, in the hopes of one day being noticed, and yet he was 60 years old, broke, and had no backup plan beyond staring at her while reading Dostoevsky. McCall quickly realized what every failed sugar daddy eventually learns. Books and advice are not enough. Attention is not enough. The girl did not fall for his routine. She did not ask him out. She did not give him what he wanted. So McCall escalated. He decided that if wisdom could not impress her, violence would. And so he went to the Russian mob. The film shows that the mobsters threatened her, but we must look at the motivation behind McCall's actions. He did not fight for justice. He did not fight for morality. He fought for her. He risked everything, all his life, all his safety, all his plans, for a woman who spent her days selling herself for a few dollars. He killed all the Russians, risked his life to get something this woman gives away for $2 an hour. Or, in simpler terms, he could have spent 50 cents and gotten the same thing. 50 cents, and instead he killed 50 men. He believed that a massacre was a path to her heart. He thought that tossing humans through windows was more persuasive than flowers. Every dead gangster a step closer to a fiction that would never come. And what was McCall's reward? Nothing. She did not run into his arms. She did not confess love. She did not even acknowledge him. After all his sacrifices, after all his violence, she left. She moved on. He was forgotten. This is the most humiliating part of McCall's story. He risked his life, his freedom, everything he had for a woman who refused him. This is not romance. This is not tragedy. This is cuckoldry performed on the grandest stage. He was not saving her for himself. He was saving her for another man. McCall's crusade was nothing more than unpaid labor for a woman who would never reward it. The truth is, McCall was never built to succeed. He was nearly 60, broke and working at a hardware store. A young, attractive woman in her 20s is not going to reward that with affection. No matter how many Russians he killed, no matter how many bodies piled up at his feet, she was never going to like him. He believed he could substitute power for wealth, bloodshed for charm, murder for money, but that is not how relationships work. He was delusional. He was pathetic. He was a simp. And yet he continued, as if each punch and each kick would somehow translate into romance. He is to dating what a wrecking ball is to interior design. Completely overkill. Every fight, every kill, a love letter written in bullet holes. And so we are left with the truth. Robert McCall was not a vigilante. He was not a savior. He was not the equalizer. He was and remains the biggest simp in cinematic history. A man who gave everything and received nothing. A man who fought for a woman who did not want him. A man who mistook violence for love and bloodshed for intimacy. Robert McCall was not equalizing the world. He was begging for affection on his knees with blood on his hands. He is the most pathetic sugar daddy ever captured on film. Thank you for watching. Slay Queens!